to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. Well, what an exciting time of the year it is, the Chinese New Year. No, I'm not going to talk about the Chinese New Year because I really know very little about Chinese astrology other than it's going to be the year of the tiger. So that sounds quite impressive. I mean, I think it's time that we all got a little bit more passionate about things and fired up and start to look at things in a more positive light than what we have done. And I know for our Chinese community, it's a very important, very special time in the year where they do like to get out and party and celebrate. And for many of them, that isn't possible because of COVID. Like so many other things that we that we took for granted that we were able to go out and celebrate on a yearly basis or a weekly or a monthly basis have been sort of suspended, or we're finding different ways of how to celebrate. And a lot of things now with technology are done online. So maybe it's not quite the same as being in person, but at least we're not letting the new Chinese year go unmarked. So it's the year of the tiger. For those tigers, I hope you have an absolutely sensational year. Now we're going to move on to the Simply Tarot card of the week. Now this is one of the major arcana cards. One of the most complicated, I think. A lot of people look at this card and think, oh my heavens, why did I draw that card? It's the Hanged Man. Now the Hanged Man is supposed to be upside down. Getting stronger in oneself after a lot of deliberating or delays. Finally on the right track. Now, I'm sure for many of us, we feel like in this last couple of years that we have been hanging upside down and we don't really know where we're going or what we're doing. But it's a card that I see as being very positive in these times, that after we've, passed the 2-year mark of COVID around the world, that we are all getting stronger. We are all finding our own path. We've all done a lot of soul searching, a lot of deliberating and delaying. And maybe, just maybe now we're starting to find the path that we're meant to be on. And yes, there's been delays, but we are getting stronger. And I think that's the important thing to remember here, is that we are all getting so much stronger in ourselves, and we are moving towards a better future, hopefully, for all of us. So we're now going to work with the astrology section of the week, and each week I say it seems to be getting busier and busier astrologically. Well, this week's no exception. We've been talking about Mercury, the planet of communication, being retrograde or backwards in the chart in the last few weeks. Well, I'm pleased to say that Mercury is now sitting in a stationary position. This doesn't mean Mercury's starting to go direct yet. Mercury will not be going direct until February 7. So we still have a little bit of waiting time there, but at least a lot of the communication issues that we've been having and things breaking down and emails and messages and things like that not getting through will start to now sort of break up a little bit. We'll start to find that we're starting to get things moving again in the right direction. So Mercury is conjunct or holding hands Pluto and Capricorn. So it's very, very interesting to see the way politics is playing out around the world, where everybody's got a fair bit to say. And a lot of it now, people are starting to sort of see through the BS and sort of say, hang on a minute, that's not quite right, or that's not as I perceived it, or hang on, this person's not exactly who I thought they were when I voted for them. So the tide is sort of turning, and it doesn't matter which area of the world that you look at when it comes to the political arena. It's sort of like the veils are being taken off. We're starting to see people for who they truly are. So I believe we have Pluto to thank for that, and also bringing the communication out into a way now that people are seeing people for who they truly are, warts and all. People are human, even if they are in positions of power, they are still human beings, hopefully. Anyway, and we need to see who they are and how they handle crises and how they handle the other people in the other side of the political arena. What do they say about them? Because that also says a lot about them and their values of how they treat their fellow human being. We have Mars, the planet of action, is also conjunct and holding hands with Venus, the planet of love and affection, also in Capricorn. So Mars is the planet of action. Mars is the planet that makes us get out of bed and get moving of a morning. Now, when it's conjunct or holding hands, Venus, the planet of love and affection, this doesn't always mean that we're going to find a new love affair or fall in love all over again. What it can mean is that we now have the passion to follow the things or start or commence something new in our lives that we are very passionate about, something that we've maybe been putting off for a little while or haven't had the opportunity to do so. Well, now maybe the pathway is clearing because Mars is helping you get moving. Mars is giving you the drive. Mars is giving you the opening to sort of say, now's the time. I've wasted enough time, or I put it on the back bench for too long. Now let's bring it forward. Let's move forward. Now, these two planets are also making a lovely aspect, which is known as a trine, to Uranus in Taurus. Now, all of these planets I'm talking about are all sitting in Earth signs. But when we have a trine like that to Uranus, Uranus is like the planet of the unusual and the unexpected. Things can happen very, very quickly out of nowhere. So I'm going to describe this as Uranus is giving us the opportunity to maybe get these projects started that we've been thinking about for too long. All of a sudden, the pathway becomes clear, the opening comes, the money becomes available, we have enough time. Whatever the blockages have been or the delays have been, now Uranus is going to clear that pathway for us very, very quickly. So on the other hand, for those of you that are looking for a new relationship, this can also be that a new relationship can come out of nowhere. But the person that you will be attracted to will be very different from people that you've attracted in the past. This person will have more of an earthy feel. They will be more pragmatic, more dictatorial in some ways, have very definite opinions. And that doesn't mean when I use the word dictatorial that they're bossy all the time. I'm just meaning somebody that has some very high values, someone that stands by their convictions. They don't just back down because someone sort of challenged their belief. They stand up for what they believe is right. And usually very highly principled people you will meet under this particular transit. But as I said before, not all of us are looking for a new relationship or a new partner in life. But for those of you that are, this is the perfect time to meet somebody new that will bring a lot more stability into your life and bring a different type of relationship, maybe one that you weren't even sure that you were ready for. It's a very grown up, very definite, very concise sort of relationship. So make sure that you're ready for that. We move on to the sun being in Aquarius. Now, the sun is where we find our astrology sign. So the sun moves around the zodiac wheel every month and changes signs. So at the moment it's in Aquarius. Now the sun is also holding hands or conjunct Saturn, the planet of discipline. Now a lot of people sort of shudder when you start sort of saying, oh, a planet's holding hands with Saturn, because Saturn is the planet of discipline, like the father figure. But what I want to say to you, without discipline, without structure, without some definite parameters in our lives, we wouldn't get anything done. So I look at Saturn as being a very definite, great influence in our lives, and it's not a planet to be feared. So when we talk about the sun conjunct or holding hands Saturn, the sun is in Aquarius, so it's asking us to think outside the square. It's asking us to be open to those light bulb moments, to be open to radical new ways of thinking, light bulb moments, you know, different ideas coming into our mind. Now, not all of those are going to be great. Not all of them are going to be something we're going to implement in our lives. And this is where Saturn comes in, because Saturn's able to sort of come in and sort of cast a watchful eye over everything and say, well, hang on a minute, that one's got merit. Even though it may be out there, it may be wacky, it may be different, it may be something that is a completely different solution to the crisis that we're in. But let's give it some thought. Let's look at this. Let's see if we can't implement this. Is this going to bring about the changes and things that are necessary? So Saturn plays a very important role here. So we need to be very aware of that where at the moment we might have some great new ideas, but we also need to back them up with some planning, some strategy, to be able to sort of look at them in a way that we can get on top of things and be able to use things in a very positive light. We also have the part of fortune, which is known as an Arabian part, which is not, this is where we find our pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But I believe it's where we find things that we can be happy about in our lives, where we are fortunate enough to have change in our lives. Now, the part of fortune is transiting through the sign of Pisces at the moment. It's also conjunct or holding hands with Neptune. So what does that mean for us mere mortals? Well, when we see the part of fortune holding hands or conjunct Neptune in Pisces, it means that we have some wonderful new opportunities coming up collectively as a group, and for each of us as an individual, that we might have to put our creative hat on. We might have to put our creative thinking cap on to maybe find some new solutions, some new answers, some different ways of looking at things. Not everything is black and white. in our lives. There's many, many shades of grey and varying from, light to dark. So maybe we need to be aware of that. We have a little bit of a window here that we can allow ourselves the time to daydream a little bit, to allow ourselves to sit there and stare out the window, even if it's only for a few minutes, and see where our mind takes us. Sometimes by doing that, it's not necessarily a waste of time. And I know people call it daydreaming and it sort of is considered a waste of time, but it's not. It's allowing our creative juices to just wander. It's allowing our mind to be still in a form of meditation, in a sense, where we allow ourselves to just be free. We're not thinking about what we've got to do in the next 5 minutes or what bills we've got to pay or who we've got to contact. We're just allowing everything to be still. So this is very positive. So if we allow that and allow the creativity that can come in from the part of Fortune conjunct or holding hands Neptune, we may just find that we get some insight and some answers to the things that have been troubling us. We may also find that we get some inspiration or some new ideas for projects to come up. And we may just also find we have this overwhelming sense of freedom, of well-being, of just being in the moment and being happy to just be here. And I think that that's really important. We've had such a difficult couple of years that none of us have known from 1 minute to the next what to expect. What's the news going to be when you wake up in the morning, and how's your day going to change, what restrictions are coming in, going out. And it's sort of been a constant. We've been on alert all the time that it'd be nice to just give ourselves this 5-minute vacation and allow ourselves to just stare out the window and daydream and see what happens. It is a busy week astrologically. There is more that I could talk about, but that's a brief insight of around the universe with astrology this week with me. So we're going to talk with Sharon in Chicago in Illinois. Are you there, Sharon?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Sharon?
Oh, how about my love life?
Okay. So anybody in particular that I need to look at, Sharon? And if you just want to share their first initial with me, if that's the case?
First initial A.
A, okay, great. All right, the first thing I'm picking up there, has there been a number of changes in the way that this relationship is hopefully trying to move forward recently? It's sort of like I've got a stop-start sort of energy there. Is that how you feel it's been going?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to say that the relationship's over. I want to be very clear on that. But I feel it's also time, Sharon, where you've got to sort of push yourself a little bit further forward in this and say, hang on a minute, I appreciate where you're coming from and I appreciate that you have a right to an opinion, but so do I. Because I feel that your opinion, your needs, your wants out of this relationship have been pushed to the back a little bit too often for my liking. It's sort of like, no one person can have everything in a relationship. There's got to be balance. There's got to be give and take. But I just feel with this person, they've been doing all the taking and you've been doing all the giving. And I want to see that come more back into a balance. Also, was there a period of time in that last 3 months last year where you either broke up or you thought the relationship was going to break up? It came very close to it coming to an end, did it not?
This is a long-term friend. He thought we had a relationship. We're in different states.
Right.
He actually moved to a different state. I don't know where, and he contacted me psychically, if that isn't crazy, saying he wants to keep in touch with me.
Okay, so he's moved and he hasn't told you where he's moved to, but look, that in itself isn't, well, it's not a good thing, but I do feel that you will have contact from him within the next month, and I think a lot of these situations will be cleared up, like where he moved to, why he did it so suddenly, why he didn't contact you, whatever and whatever and whatever. But what they were showing me in that last 3 months of 2021, it was like question marks and ending symbols, as if you were questioning whether or not this was worth it. You seem to be the one doing all the investing of the energy in this relationship, and that's got to stop. It's got to be a two-way street. All I can share with you, that they're allowing me to share with you because it's such a public forum, is that whatever you know about that was holding him back, or whatever he needed to sort out, work through, let go of, has been completed. I can share that much with you. So without going into graphic detail, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was a number of loose ends there that really needed to be tidied up once and for all and completed. They have been completed. I don't know that he moved. I'm going to say it's not that long ago he moved. You know, it's still very new. So you will hear from him once things settle down a little bit more. Just be aware, I think, on a psychic level, I think he will come to you more and more over this next month. I would be suggesting jot things down or put it in your phone or something like that, how you felt and what the message was, because some of them are going to seem confusing and conflicting, and not all of them are going to be the actual message. They may be a cryptic, like a crossword clue to what the actual real situation is. So that's why I'm suggesting jot it down so that you can go back over it and try and, you know, put pieces into a puzzle so that then when he does contact you and he starts, you know, verbally communicating with you and it's very fast and it's sort of jumbled, you'll at least have some idea how to follow the conversation without pulling him up all the time, you know, because I think he's got a lot to say when he does contact you. And it's like, you know, sometimes when you get overexcited, you just blurt things out and you don't even take time for a breath and you jumble everything in together. It's going to be a conversation like that. But no, I don't believe this relationship's over. I do believe before the end of this year, the two of you will be living in the same location, starting to really build a solid future together. Okay. So I hope that's helped you, Sharon.
Yeah, it does. He wanted to. I think he was pushed out of a job, right. And he had to retire and move very fast. And the message was that he was in a panic. He said, I moved and they won't let me into your file because it's at work and I can't work there anymore. And you know, with COVID and everything else, people lost jobs. They didn't want to be vaccinated. I don't either. But anyway, that's another thing. He was natural. So then he's in a panic. He contacted me, apologized, said, sorry, this is the only way I can. And I was taken off guard. I thought he wasn't with me anymore. You know, he sounded like he wanted to contact me. I called back there. They said he no longer works there. He retired and, you know, he's with somebody or whatever the excuse was. They made all. I said, where do you move? They said, oh, we can't tell you. I said, pass on my number. They said, yeah, sure we will. Yeah, sure they will. It was the craziest thing. I'm asking everyone. They're yelling at me and saying, he doesn't want anyone to know. I think he lost faith and he lost his job, you know, if you ask me. But that's just me. And he said, I don't want to keep in contact with anyone there except I want to keep it with you, and you're the one person I don't have your number.
Yeah, but I think he will find your number, and he will make contact again with you. Look, I think there's more answers than even what you know yet. So just keep an open mind. There's more than that one situation that's happened. He's had an awful lot to go through, and he's had to sort of, you know, regroup in so many ways. So anyway, Sharon, unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to leave it. I'm going to be speaking now with Veronica in Bakersfield in California. Are you there, Veronica?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Veronica?
Just if my recent ex, like if he still thinks about me or is planning like to, like come back.
Okay. Do you mind sharing with me his first initial, please, sweetie?
His first initial is J.
J. Okay, great. Thank you. Just so I make sure I tune into the right ex. Okay. First thing that is showing me is that he's not sure. Look, I'm not going to say he doesn't think about you, and I'm not going to say he doesn't think about the time that the two of you are together and everything that you experience, good, bad, and everything else. But at this moment, it's like he's just sort of sitting there sort of saying, I don't know. And I think he's saying that to a number of areas in his life. I think he's in a transitional period where there's a lot of things happening around him, and I think he's feeling quite exhausted and sort of not really ready to make any major decisions at the moment. I feel if he's going to come back towards you or going to make some sort of connection with you with the view of seeing where this could go and the potential of us reconnecting, you will know in March. Now, if March comes and goes and there's absolutely no communication from him whatsoever, then you have your answer that the door is shut, that he's made his final decision. I don't believe that's going to happen. I do believe he is going to reach out. It may not be reaching out in the form of, oh, you know, you've been on my mind every day and I terribly miss you. I think it's going to be more a random sort of thing, how are you, or something like that, that sort of, you could take that, did he really mean it for me, or did he send that to half a dozen people, or was it a mistake? You know, it's nothing personal there. It's just his way of reaching out to see whether or not you're going to respond. So you've got to be careful how you respond. You don't want to come on too strong, but I think you've also got to give it a little bit of encouragement too. So it's, you know, you've got to carefully word your response. I feel from your response, then I think, you know, things will sort of banter backwards and forwards a little bit. To me, it seems to be in a message form to begin with. Then I think there's an actual sort of phone call and we actually have a proper conversation. And then I think, you know, things will progress from there. I think there's been a lot of things that have gone on that you're unaware about, that he had to process himself, that he had to sort out. And there was also somebody that had captivated his heart from the past, has also come back into his life in the time that the two of you have been apart. Now, that's something I think he had to work through and really finally put that to bed. Did it always sort of feel like as if there was a third person in your relationship?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that particular person I'm talking about. But I can clearly tell you that he has resolved that now once and for all, and that is definitely in the past, end of subject, never to be sort of, you know, visited again, to shown the light of day. So that's a positive thing that's happened. I think there's also been the sorting out of many other areas of his life, including his friends, because he had a lot of people there around him that were using him, that were taking advantage of his good nature. So all those sort of layers have been peeled back and cut off and everything as well. So he's had a pretty tumultuous time in the time that the two of you have been apart. The universe has certainly thrown a lot at him to sort things out and grow up a little bit, and, you know, and sort of instead of leaving things half done or pushing it to the back of the closet, he's had to deal with these sort of things. So when he does come back, he's going to look a little bit shell-shocked and, you know, a little bit worse for wear and sort of, you know, physically looking a little bit tired. So I don't want you to be too shocked by that. It's just been this process of all these things that have happened in the time that the two of you have been apart. That will soon fall away and we'll start to see him become, you know, positive again and full of life. And I really do think that there is a very strong chance, Veronica, that you can rekindle this relationship, but then rebuild it in a completely different way, that it's got a much stronger, more secure footing than it had before. And the two of you will really build a nice life together. But it's like he's almost becoming a different person. But, you know, the things that you loved about him will still be there. It's just that you see a stronger, more improved model, shall we say. And that's a good thing because, you know, there was many parts of him before that I would consider were very immature. And that used to cause you a lot of frustration. And then also having that third person sort of in the relationship that shouldn't have been there, that was also very difficult to deal with as well. So, you know, you've really had a tough time with that relationship, but at the same time, you still have an ache in your heart that says this is not finished yet. And I agree with you, Veronica, it's not finished yet. So I hope that's helped you, sweetie.
A question or like a concern, I don't know how. Like I stayed apart, like I stayed away from him, so he could better himself, you know, like because he would keep saying that it was me and I don't know, but I've stayed kind of like away, so he could work on himself, you know, because he fell into drugs and all that, and like his aunt asked me to stay away, kind of, and I have, but I'm afraid if we go back or like if I have more contact with him, he fall back to the person that he was before. Because I know he's different. I know he's changed and all that, and I'm glad for that too. But I don't want to see him how I saw him the last time like he was here.
Yeah, but, you know, there's a lot of things that have changed in the time that you've been apart. And, you know, I appreciate his aunt asked you to stay away from him and all those sort of things. But this is going to be a completely different situation. When he reaches out to you and the two of you eventually get to sit down and talk about it and look at things and understand things, you'll see a very different man. It's like he's been through a lot in this last few months. And, you know, the things that have taken place have taken their toll on him. And he's got to sort of start to relayer himself again, and he will. And this is why I think it's important that we've got to look at this as being almost like a brand new relationship. What you've had in the past has got to stay in the past. We've got to treat this as sort of, we've just met, we're starting out afresh, we're looking at things in very different eyes. So unfortunately, Veronica, that's where we're going to have to leave it. We've come to the end of the show, but I wish you well with your pursuit of rekindling your past love. So that's Veronica in California. So for many people, there's relationships that are going to be sort of going through some tough times, or the rekindling of past relationships. So we just need to be aware of that, because, it is part of the sorting out. It is part of the changes that are happening in our world at the moment that we all need to be aware of, that as we, start to emerge, and I go back to the Hanged Man at the beginning of the show, we are getting stronger in ourselves. So before we finish the show, I just want to pay respect to one of Australia's greatest entertainers, passed away overnight from COVID. Many of you will know Glenn Weekley, as he was in the Masters Apprentices band here in Australia many, many, many moons ago. But he went on to continue his rock and roll interest, and he was one of Australia's greatest promoters and backed some of Australia's biggest entertainers. One of them, he's a very dear friend of John Farnham, who I often speak about on the show. But for our USA listeners and viewers, you will know Glenn Weekley is the man behind the Little River Band, with Glenn Shorrock and some of those amazing hits that they had in the US of A. So unfortunately, we have lost Glenn overnight, way too young. I woke up to that news this morning before the show, and it really has rocked me, because he's one of Australia's legends. And I'd like to leave you this week with a song that I think says it all, from the Masters Apprentices, which goes way back. All because of you. And Glenn, you will be deeply, deeply missed in this country. Bye for now.